arrangement of a given economy. Of a given economy. I have used the numerous words having related information. I've talked about the economic organization. When I talk about economic organization, I mean how a given economy organizes resources, utilizes resources, distributes resources to achieve the needs or to satisfy the needs of the citizens of a particular country. When I talk about the structure and maybe composition, still we are looking at what a given economy comprises. What makes up a given economy in form of, not me, get me well, in form of resource ownership, resource allocation, resource distribution, resource distribution. So in this line, therefore, we have three major economic systems. We are saying there are what? There are three major economic. When I say economy, I mean economic systems. Out of which one is called capitalist. We call it laissez laissez-faire, which we also call capitalist, and we also call it free enterprise economy. Free enterprise economy. Are we together? All of these three names mean the same. We are going to, let me first list them down and then we shall look at one by one. One by one. Then the second one. Is called command or planned economy. By the way, this one we can also call it unplanned what? Unplanned economy. Command stroke unplanned what? Economy. Then Roman 3 is where we have a combination of these existing at the same time, existing all together, and their existence is aimed at curbing the disadvantages of each other. And this one is called mixed what? Mixed economy. Mixed economy. I've told you it is called mixed economy because it entails, because it combines both capitalist and command economy. And by the way, by not forgetting, let me not forget that command economy or planned economy is also called communist economy. Communist or socialist economy. So you are finding one economic system having a number of names, but these names mean the same. These names mean the same. Okay? Yes. Now we are going to move on to look at each one at a time. Each one at a time. You don't forget them as we are proceeding slowly. So we are going to start with the first one. The first one which we have called laissez-faire stroke, we have also called it capitalist economy, and we have also called it unplanned economy, also not forgetting that we have also called it what? That we have also called it free enterprise economy. Yes. Now, I'm going to give you some historical part of it. When you talk about, I told you these ones are all meaning the same. Let me start with the laissez-faire, which is not an English word. The word laissez-faire, this one here, is a French word Is a French what? Is a French word, which means, which in English, means leave me alone. Leave me what? Alone. In other words, it's an economic, doctrine where there is limited government interference in the free interplay, in the free interplay of forces of demand and in the free forces of demand and supply. Yes. Now, this is basing in the French version. Now, let us look at its profile. That this economy, I have told you, laissez-faire capitalism, capitalist, unplanned free enterprise economy. I started with laissez-faire, trying to tell you what it means and what is the basis of it. And then the capitalist, this capitalism, of course, emerged from the Western European side, which was aiming at making sure that resources in an economy are owned by private individuals, utilized by private individuals, their distribution is by private individuals. That is to suit their needs. All the decision making in the production, as far as what to produce, where to produce, how to produce, when to produce, for whom to produce, are made by the individual producers, the private individuals. That is why we call it free enterprise. There is a high level of freedom. So, how did it come about? How did it come about? The father of this system was who? Was Adam Smith. Adam Smith that we are seeing here was a Scottish economist, was an economist from Scotland, a man who was born in 1723. In 1723, even when your grandparents, all of them, most of them were not yet on this earth. And when did he come up with this study or with this argument that really for countries to develop, for economies to develop, resources must be owned by the private individuals? So he came up with this argument, with his argument. Here I have told you he was born in 1923, but he came up with his argument in 1776. That is when this economic system was argued for and therefore started existing. Yes. Are you following me? Are we moving on together? Are we moving on smoothly? Hello? Let me hope that slowly we are moving at par. All right. Now we have come to understand who was the father of the laissez-faire, of the free enterprise economy, that he was Adam Smith. Adam Smith, who was born in 1723, from where? From Scotland. From Scotland. And he came to put this system in place, to argue for it, having had serious analysis, study and analysis of economic dealings in various countries. And therefore came to conclude by 1776 that no, for economic growth and development to exist really, free enterprise economy should be argued for. Then he went on to show the characteristics of this economic system. And what were those features of such an economy? Of such an economic system. Yes. So here we look at futures. Futures of what? Of the capitalist or free enterprise economy. We realize that where the government is not influencing in so much, that means there is private ownership of what? There is private ownership of resources. That the private individuals, like I myself here, you yourself, who is seeing me here, you who is seated there, you have to own the resources. Resources like land has to belong to you. You have to have authority over a given piece of land, over a given river, over a given hill, over a given mountain, over a given, mention them. You must own them. You must have authority over them. Because when you have authority over them, you will be in a position to allocate the resources in accordance to your need, in accordance to what you want to produce. Okay? At times there is something that just as let me bring it as a joking way, but it is academically right. When I'm not yet married, when I had not yet married, I used to fear joking, putting rules to people's women, rules to the public. Why? Because they were not mine. They were not mine. Yeah? So I could be there as humble as I was, but whenever I could see something wrong, I could say, now what should I say? When I say this and this, people will get annoyed of me. When I say this woman is people would think otherwise. Therefore I had to. But when I got mine, my dear one, now I developed a sense of authority over her, a sense of authority over my family, and therefore she goes with what I want because she belongs to me. She is mine. She is under my control. I am the head of the family, and therefore everything we do has to go hand in hand with what we want. But I could not put regulations onto her when she's still at her mother's or his father's home. Yes, so this is what we mean. When you are not owning the resources, you don't have powers over what to use them for, over what to produce, what product to produce using those resources. When you don't own the resource, you can't ask yourself, when should I produce? And you get an answer because you don't own the resource. It is not yours. Where should I produce from? You don't own the land to determine the location. Clear? So, in that line, therefore, in this case, where we have free enterprise economy, there is private ownership of resources. And when you own the resources, every economic equation, it is for you and your own to determine. So when there is private ownership of resources, it implies that there is limited government intervention in what? In resource allocation, Distribution. Yes. So here, remember, the point is there is limited. It is hard, it is quite hard to find where there is completely no government interference. That one is hard. However much limited government interference it may be, but when it is there, only that the magnitude of its interference is very what? Very low. But when it is there, because it cannot completely be off and leaves the entire economy into the hands of the public, because there are some strategic kind of resources which cause or which call for its interference. And at times, certain producers tend to misbehave alongside their consumers, and the government cannot completely keep a deaf ear, even when it is interfering at a very low rate. Okay? Yes. So with this limited interference, government interference, we also realize that force prices are determined by free forces of demand and supply. Free forces of demand and supply. Why do we call them free? Because with them they fluctuate. The forces of demand and supply move up and down, or fluctuate or change depending on the nature of supply and demand. Yes. Employment is created. Employment is created. There is creation of employment opportunities. Employment is created by enlarging the scale of production. Yes. Then, having looked at these advantages here of having a free enterprise economy, let us also go through the disadvantages. Let us also go through the disadvantages. Let us also go through the disadvantages, having had a very small resting in a few minutes. Let's be back with the disadvantages of the laissez-faire economy. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to class for another session. As I have told you that from here we shall link to the disadvantages of free enterprise economy, Yes, by the way, I'm remembering something. Before we go to the disadvantages, there's something which was hiding in my head here. Among the advantages, also note that there is no, under free enterprise economy, there is no wastage. There is no wastage of resources. Why are we saying there is no wastage of resources? It is because the producers produce in accordance to what consumers need. It is what consumers need that the producers produce. So producers don't produce goods for wastage, and they are unbought. Those ones are not there. So whatever you produce and is demanded, you say yes. Whatever you produce and is taken, you say wow. So at the end of the day, the raw materials will not be wasted. Even the final products, they will not get spoiled on the market. Thus, limited wastage of resources. So from there, then let us link to disadvantages. Disadvantages, we also call them demerits. We are looking at laissez-faire or capitalist, unplanned or free enterprise economy. So, with the disadvantages, there first and foremost, I removed the features, but do you recall them? Okay. We said that there is limited government interference. Limited government interference in the free interplay or in the free enterprise economy. And therefore, what is the disadvantages of the government? Not so much interfering. One of the disadvantages is that consumers, there may be consumption of undesirable consumption of undesirable goods or services. For instance, the harmful goods, outdated goods, and at times of poor quality. Why? Because the government is not supervising because the government is not supervising the nature or the standard of a given commodity, the standard or the quality of a given commodity produced and put on the market. The producer just comes from nowhere, brings the item onto the market, and then me, I come from my home, from nowhere, just look at its outward appearance. I say, hey, it is good. I just take, not knowing the inner quality of the product. You get that? Yes. Now, too, you also realize that there tend to be over exploitation of both producers and consumers. Yes. Why am I saying both producers and consumers? Producers themselves, let me start with producers. Producers can also be exploited. Yes, they can also be exploited. How can producers be exploited? These producers can be exploited by the consumers through being forced by the stiff competition for the consumers to give high discounts of their products that they are selling. And at the end of the day, they are forced to sell commodities at very low prices. Not forgetting that these people, the producers, aim at maximizing profits. So when they sell at very low prices, what does it mean? It means that they have been exploited by the consumers by making them to sell their commodities below the average. At one time you find that when maybe their goods have taken a long time on the market not being bought because of the stiff competition, I come on the market, I find when there are a variety, I buy from other producers, and with you end up not selling. So at the end of the day, you will be forced to sell at relatively lower price. You compete in terms of price. You reduce the price to the lowest level you can and be able to sell. Indirectly, you will be exploited by the consumers. Yes. On the other hand, the consumers can also are always also exploited by the producers. These ones are exploited by producers through high what? High prices. Through high prices. And with these ones here, I told you they are exploited by consumers through what? Through heavy discounts in prices. Yes. Are we together? That's why I note it as exploitation of both producers and consumers, because the government is not there to determine the level of price which is static at a given level, either high price or a low price, above which a given quantity, a given product should not be sold. All high price, below which a given product is not supposed to be bought or sold. So in line with that, you find it a very big problem. Yes, in this very scenario here, you continue realizing that vital and non-profit making products which we also call utilities are not bought. Sorry, are not produced. Are not produced. Very true, very true. Why? Because the main aim of the producer and the free enterprise economy is to maximize the profits. To maximize the profits. And just as I asked you before, that none of you, who of you can engage in the production where you have no profit? There's no one. There is no one. So, in that scenario, there are some utilities which are public utilities, but which are not profit-making on individual level. On individual level. For example, the construction of wells which are water sources for a given society, for a given community. That one becomes hard for an individual who is rich, even when one is rich, apart from some politicians, because they are the politicians who tend to use those technicalities to win people's what? Minds, votes for them. But under economic sense, there is no investor, an individual or in the society who can come up and say, the entire community be settled. I'm going to make for you this well. Don't feel worried, okay? Feel okay, feel at home. And you get your huge amount of money. You go and work on the well. It is not there. It is not. On roads, look at the roads. Even when the roads have become so impassable because of their poor state, it becomes very hard for the rich people who have money to invest in other productive ventures to come in and construct such a road. Personally, where you come from, the road is a Maram road, not tarmacked, Maram road. But when I feel like going home, I just say the problem has now come. If I don't fall, my motorcycle will get problems, mechanical problems. Why? Because of the continuous potholes that are found. Yet there are very many big people in our area. Even factories are there. We have a tea factory, but Even a factory cannot, those factory managers cannot come out and say, let us construct this road to standard since we are using it for our transportation of goods from one area to another. They cannot, because they are looking at the amount they are going to invest in and for who? For the general public? No, they will not. I usually giving an example. I usually give an example around the Hoima here of a given tycoon whose name I may not mention. Yes, whose name I may not mention, but a tycoon who had worked for years and years. And I remember when we were still at university, those years, he used to say, around 2010, 2012, 13, 14, he used to say, now with me, I'm still consuming the money of 1980s. I have not even tackled the money of 1990s. All that money is there. All that money is where? Is there. So, don't play with me. But when you analyze how wealthy he is and how the roads where he passes are, you don't even need to see there. You just wonder, if he's having huge amounts of, why doesn't he engage? At least in the construction of the, repairing the road where he's passing. He cannot. Why? Because he looks at that as a public utility and he's going to benefit, no profit he's going to get out of it. And therefore, because of that, he leaves it. That's why we are saying that public or vital and non-profit making products or utilities are not produced. You get that? I think it is at home. Then the other one that is that there is over exploitation of available resources. What is causing this overexploitation of available resources? This one is caused by the high level of competition for those factor inputs. High level of competition for factor inputs. Each producer, even the other producer, plus the other producer, among all of them, they are competing to make sure they have produced a given level of output using that available raw material. So at the end of it all, you find that the resources available are over exhausted, are depleted, and the future production may be on stand still. Okay, that is also another disadvantage of having no government in the interplay of the economy. So, in line with this, therefore, we also realize that there is duplication of output. Duplication of output, i.e., we mean goods and what? Goods and services. This one is because by the way, we have to note that in this free enterprise economy, there is a free enterprise, there is a free entry and exit of firms, of producers, as a key, also a key feature. And therefore, since there is a free entry and exit of firms or producers, whenever one engages in production and is doing well, doing well in terms of profitability, then others also are always encouraged to come and join the same kind of production. And when they come in, you realize that they are going to start copying. They start copying the product that is already in the market. And when they are copying, therefore, they may end up producing some standard product of that product. And therefore, that duplication results either into wastage of what? Of resources, all, of course, wastage of resources as a result of overproduction. And also may also cause poor quality products, producing substandard products because of the duplication which comes as a result of free entry of firms. And when they come here, they start competing. In the process of competing, there is a high likelihood of producing goods which are of less standard also. Then, having had that duplication, we also realize that under free enterprise economy, monopoly tendencies may arise. Why? Because, remember, we have the future of free entry and exit. So since there is a free entry and exit, when firms freely join the production venture, then you realize that competition increases. And assuming or when a weak firm is outcompeted, then the dominant firms remain in production. And the dominant firm which has remained in the production, having outcompeted all the small, weak firms who have limited capital to invest into production, becomes a monopoly power. But we know that these monopoly powers have a lot of disadvantages. Have a lot of disadvantages. Out of which, one of which, they produce at excess capacity. Do you remember that? Do you remember what excess capacity is? We are not meaning overproducing, excess supply. No, we mean underutilizing the resource. They tend to underutilize the resource with an aim of producing less, such that they can sell that small quantity at very high price, that after all, they have no close substitute. You get? After all, they have no close substitute. So at the end of it all, the problem goes back to the free enterprise economy with its future of free entry and exit, plus the competition. Yes. So here we can also not forget that when these small farms are outcompeted and forced to leave the production venture, that one also causes unemployment among those whose farms have closed, among those farms whose production has ceased to exist. Therefore, we note that leads to we are saying there is unemployment, which unemployment come as a result of the over competition or outcompeting these small farms. So the workers who were working there initially are laid off because the employer is no longer doing any work. So becomes a disadvantage of the free enterprise economy. So having looked at that, those disadvantages, let us also connect to the second economic system, which we said it is called the command economy, which we said that it is command, which we also call planned. Not also forgetting that we also called it another name, communist. Also calling it socialist what? Economy. Yes. As we are looking at the socialist economy, the father of this economic system, was called Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a British economist. We are saying was a British economist. And to him, having studied and analyzed different economies in this world, he came up to conclude that for economic growth and development to occur in a given country, there must be ownership of resources by the government. That the government should own resources, allocate the resources, distribute them under the full governance of the, without private ownership. So in this line, therefore, it has got the following features, one of which include government ownership of resources, and therefore because of that there is no decision making on what? On production, is by the central government or central authority. For this matter still, we realize that it is the government which determines the price. Determines the price. Unlike in the private, in the free enterprise economy, where the prices were determined by the forces of demand and supply, which we called the invisible hand. So in this line, therefore, production is for use. Is for use rather than profits. With the government, it does not aim at attaining a profit in its production, but rather it aims at providing utilities, providing services to the communities. And therefore, since it is the government which owns everything, every resource, there is no what? There is no competition. Competition in what? In both production and consumption. For this matter here, when the government is the only resource owner, the land, the hills, the mountains, the waters, that is the lakes, the rivers, everything belongs to the government. So there's no competitor in the production. It is the one which determines what to produce, how to produce, when, where, and for whom to produce. So when it has constructed roads, it does not compete with anyone in constructing the road. When it is putting up hospitals, it does not need to first compete with anyone when it is putting up hospitals. Nor do we, the consumers, also compete when we are utilizing those utilities. No, we don't. For example, when we are on the road, everyone moves his own way, his or her own way, regardless of wherever you are going. It's upon you. There is no one who has to compete for the road for the usage of the road. When we go to the hospitals, there is no need for us to compete for the resources, for the facility. Because even if you compete, will you take overdose? You will not take overdose. But whether it will be the doctor to determine how much medicine to give you. So there is no need for us to compete. For the case of the schools, they are for all of us, not for profit making. And therefore with us, the role is to go there, sit, be taught, go away. All right. So, having had these few features of command economy, we can still move on and analyze them and see the significance, the advantages, what are the merits of having a command economy. By the way, for this matter, just as I gave you an example of capitalist economies that they emanated from the Western Europe and they moved on to the entire African continent. Likewise, for the case of the communist or socialist economy, this one emanated from Eastern Europe, where we have Russia. Russia, which was a communist bloc by those days of 1940s, before the end of World War II, 1945, before its final collapse. It's where we had a bigger bloc of the communist economies. When it came to Africa, we have been having Libya under command economy, where resources have all in all been in the hands of the government. Yes, even before time of Gaddafi, the late, who died in 2011. Time of King Idris, resources were under the control of the government. And when it came to Gaddafi's time, Colonel Muammar el-Gaddafi of Libya, who governed Libya from 1969, it comes to our knowledge that he really had controlled the economy to his satisfaction, to the level that he felt that really Libya was growing. That is why, to take you back slightly, that's why when he was conniving with the Western European companies who were working on the oil in Libya, when he came in power, he said, no, I cannot continue dealing with you for long. Sort out yourselves. He made a statement that the oil of Libya is for the Libyans. He did not say the oil of Libya is mine, but he said it is for the Libyans. Meaning that the resources in Libya belong to the entire people of Libya, to the public. That is where we have a communist economy. But now it is on a high trend of collapse, total collapse, because of the high interference of the Western. Why? Basically because Gaddafi, he who was calling himself the king of kings in Africa here, later on was overthrown and was given a bloody nose in 2011. All right. So what could be the advantages? What could be the advantages of having resources in the economy being controlled by the government? Yes, for this matter here, we realize that public utilities are produced. Public utilities, we mean those which are non-profitable making in nature, are produced. Why? Because they tend to be expensive for an individual, but on the other hand also still individuals like profit-making businesses, and these ones like roads, as I have mentioned them, they are not to an individual. Then we also say that there is efficient, since the government owns the resources, that means there is equitable. utilization of resources. In other words, there is no economic imbalance in the country because it allocates resources to where they are needed. To where they are needed. Then, on the other hand, we also realize that there is no income inequality. There is no income inequality in such a what? In such an economy. Why? Because there is no individual who comes in to exploit a given resource for personal gains. Personal gains. So there is nothing like a social class division. That there is a class of the rich and of the poor. As the case is with capitalist economy, with the laissez-faire economy, the free enterprise economy, that there is social divisionism, the rich and the poor, the resource owners and the resource and the consumers. No, this time it is not there. So income inequality is in non-existence. So the other one, there is no wastage. No wastage of resources. Why? Because there is no competition. Because there is no competition. There is no competition. The government does not compete with anyone. And because it does not compete with anyone, therefore it does not exploit resources anyhow to end up not utilizing some of the resources, to end up not exploiting some or using up some of the resources. For this matter, therefore, there is no duplication. There's no duplication. Why? Because entry is restricted. Entry into production is restricted. So since the entry is restricted, therefore other firms, other producers cannot join such a production system, thus causing no duplication. Which duplication brings about production of substandard products and also causing poor quality products because of stiff and unnecessary competition. Yes. So, for that matter, therefore, we realize also that let me first remove this, try to create space. For this matter, therefore, we are saying there is no bureaucracy. Sorry, let us say that in that economy, it is easy to plan because decisions are centrally made. There is no need of making research around. They just sit as a committee in the central government and they say, now let us produce this for this and this. It is done. With us down here, what we only have to receive, to wait for, is to receive what is coming from up. For example, in Uganda here we have what we are calling the PDM, the parish development model. The parish development model was not bottom to up, but rather it was top to bottom, from the central government, from the president to us here. We did not contribute in its implementation, in its planning, to commence it, to start about it. No, we did not, but rather we have been there to receive. So there is also economic stability. There is economic stability. Why? Because prices are made by who? By the government. So issues of price fluctuation are controlled by the government. It is the government which determines the price at which a given product should be produced at and should be given out at. So issues of price fluctuation over the forces of demand and supply, they are not there. They are not there. Yes. So given that you can as well think about, do you have any other that you can think about or that you might have thought about? Please, if you have, let us share it and we'll look at their validity. Yes. The other one we can as well note is that since there is government ownership of resources, there is limited conflicts. Over resources to be used in production. To be used in production. Remember, for the case of the free enterprise economy, there is a competition, there is a free ownership of resources available. So, just like the case in Uganda, when you have money, you buy, you own a lot of land, and you start also hijacking people's land because you have the freedom to own the land. You go here and there, and you make up. You find yourself having the land title of the land which was initially owned by some other people. So you start running to courts up and down every time and again because of the motive of accumulating wealth for an individual or individual accumulation of wealth. But for this matter here, it is not there. Why? Because all of us, we are under the government. No one is allowed to own land. No one is allowed to own a given resource. So issues of such a conflicts over ownership of certain resources are not there. Which is good actually. Which is good. Yes. There's no tendency of saying that there's no social divisionism. Social divisionism in terms of classes. Social classes are not there. The rich and the poor, all of us are one. What the poor, what one eats is the same, the other one also. Whether you want what kind of house, you will be able to get the one which the government has provided for you. Just as I was telling you about the person, the president, who called himself the King of Kings in Africa here, the late Colonel Muammar el Gaddafi. Yeah, Colonel Muammar el Gaddafi, in his government, it is said, it is noted in the books of records that his government had reached the level of building houses for the citizens. For the citizens. Time has come. You are grown up. They build for your house. You marry. That is all. That is all. Sanabasa. So time, you could not have time to go that, yeah, I'm going to build there, I'm going to build a house, I want to marry. No, because the uniform or the category of houses were alike, were the same in whichever style. So whether you seemed to be rich or you seemed to be poor, there was no that kind of differences. Yes. Now let us look at the disadvantages. Let us look at the disadvantages. Let us look at the disadvantages. Yes, having those features there, let us look at the disadvantages, out of which these demerits, we say that since the government owns resources and all production decisions are made by it, they tend to be too slow decision making. However much it is easy, but the distribution, decision making, production and distribution of the products to the final consumer, in that process there is a high level of bureaucracy, high level of bureaucracy. It takes a long period of time. Move here to there, move here to there, go to the other office, from there, get the letter here, go to the other office, for you to get, for a consumer to be served. Needs him to overtrample various offices. Then the other is that consumers are not served in line with their what? With their demand. Yes, that one is like that. We are saying like that consumers are not served in line with their demand, because in some cases you may find a community, it wants a school in a given society, and the government which just sits in the city and makes decisions over that. Every sub-county in a given country like Uganda here, for example, we must have a secondary school. The school may not be the pressing need at the moment. You may find when the pressing need is water. When the pressing need is a road, poor roads. And the government ends up spending its resource, its money to provide what is not actually so much demanded by the local people on ground. Thus being improper. Then 3, we said there is no competition among the what? Among in production, and therefore there is a likelihood of poor products being produced by the government, since there is no competitor to compete with it in terms of quality produce, in terms of the quality of output produced. And therefore this one in the long run ends up causing. Okay, we are on the third point. Which we are saying that since there is no competition, under the command or planned economy, therefore we say that there is poor quality products. There is poor quality products which are produced. Poor quality products are produced basically because there is one sole producer. There is one only producer, the government. And the government has no competitor who can force it in one way or the other to try to improve on the quality. At times the government knows that whatever it is doing, it is the one which is of the best quality. When forgetting that in production, there are high levels of creativity, high levels of inventiveness and innovativeness. And therefore, what it believes to be the best may on the other hand, for another producer, not be the best. And may end up bringing in an advanced mode of production for the best product. So because of lack of competition in production, consumers end up enjoying commodities not of high quality. Yes. And then on the other hand, so we are saying there's no competition, production and consumption. So because there is no, I told you that we get these advantages and disadvantages out of the futures. When you don't know the futures, it becomes hard for you to know the advantages and disadvantages of these economic systems. So because there is no entry or restricted entry in production, therefore it means that there is a likelihood of underutilization of the available resources. Underutilization of the available resources. Because you may find when the resources in a particular country are in abundance, and the government therefore cannot be in all directions of the country to utilize all the productive resources in a given country. Like where it would have, like where it has allowed private individuals also to engage in production. So as it is somewhere, in some other directions, even we, private individuals, would be busy carrying out production in other, thus promoting, that is trying to increase the rate at which production is made and raw materials are utilized. So underutilization of the available resources also tends to prevail. Yes. This one also, on the other hand, tends to cause pressure on government. Pressure on government when it has failed to produce output on time. Because consumers will always be looking at the government, that you are the one who is supposed to supply us with what we need. And therefore they will be there waiting for the government to supply given resources to them. And therefore, because of that, the government will be put on pressure. For example, when there are medical services, people are suffering from a given disease, the government is there struggling, but things are still jamming, are still delaying to come out to produce the medicine to the local people on ground. Therefore, that one causes unpopularity of the current government in power among the population. Then on the other hand, we realize that when consumers, when the citizens are all there throughout, only waiting to be served by the government, since it is the sole producer, that means the government or this kind of system promotes laziness. Among the citizens, because they don't have the powers, they don't have the authority to utilize the given resource. And they always keep on waiting. The government will give us, will pay for the fees for our children, will pay for the medication, will pay for water, will pay for hydroelectricity power, everything. Because they don't have, or they have little or no powers. And therefore this one causes dependency, high levels of dependency on government. Dependence on government. So, having heard about the command economy and its father, the father of that system, the features, advantages and disadvantages, please class allow me also to go to the last economic system, which is called what? Because I noted them first here on the board. I noted them here on the board. Please, may you tell me what the third one is? Yes. Tell me what the third one was. The third one was what? Number 3 was what economic system? Number 3 was mixed economy. And we call it mixed because it involves both the free enterprise economy and the command economy. This one is meant, this coexistence of the two economies all together at the same time aims at curbing each of the two, curbing the disadvantages of the other. We are saying it involves coexistence of both the free enterprise economy and command economy. So, for this matter here, just as I have told you that it combines both. On one hand, on one leg, there is free enterprise economy. On the right hand, there is a command economy. So, command economy comes in to overcome the problems that come with the free enterprise economy. But also free enterprise economy is busy trying also to solve the problems that come with the command economy. So at the end of the day, when we are looking at the futures, we look at both the futures of both two economic systems. Are you together? Yes, my people, let me hope that we are at par. So we are saying that when we are looking at mixed economy, we are going to look at the futures of both the free enterprise, the laissez-faire economy, and the command economy. Out of which, can we start saying them out, please? Can we list them? Starting with the free enterprise economy. We said there is a private ownership of resources. 2, forces of demand and supply determine price. Determine what? Price. We said there is also high level of competition. Okay? Decisions on economic questions are made by private individuals. Yes? So, what are others? Please, class, may you contribute? We also said that here we have limited government, interference. We noted that there is a free entry and exit of farms, stroke we mean producers, We also noted that under command economy we have government interference, we have the Central Planning Authority, We also noted that we have restricted entry that is under command. We also noted government ownership of resources, among others. And therefore, in line with that, since we said that we have futures of both of the two economic systems, therefore for this matter here, what we do, since free enterprise economy is solving the disadvantages of command economy, and the command economy is also solving its existence, solves the disadvantages of free enterprise economy. Therefore, at the end of the day, we realize that under a mixed economy, which are the most economies in the world. I'm saying they are the most economies in the world because there is, in this world that we are in today, it is hard and very hard to find one economic system operating in a particular country. Where it happens to be, there are very few. And I think that is basically in the communist states like Russia. Because even in some other countries, like in Africa here, where we also somehow, somewhere, tend to have some kind of socialism, in East Africa here, we also have at least one country where people are not allowed anyhow to own certain resources. Yes, in East Africa here, we have one country, one of the smallest countries here. Because they find you having a huge amount of money, they ask you, tooth and nail, where have you got? Where have you got this car? How you can't own this land? Where are the authorities which has granted you to own such kind of resources? No, you're not allowed. Come here. So you are cautioned. So they have not mentioned the actual country, but it is here in East Africa. But all in all, what I'm saying is that countries which have specifically one are no longer common in today's world, economic world. So here for this matter, we shall only have advantages of having a mixed economy. Only advantages, only good things of having a mixed economy. But no disadvantages, because the disadvantages are solved here by the two forces of command economy and free enterprise economy. So therefore here, by looking at our advantages, first and foremost, we have a high level of employment. High level of employment. High level of employment creation. High level of employment creation. When the government is engaging in its own production ventures, it employs individuals. Also, on the other hand, when the private individuals are also engaging in their own production, increasing on the scales at which they are producing, the scales at which they are producing, given the profit motive, they employ who? They employ the citizens. They employ the local people, thus creating employment opportunities for the public. For the public. Yes. Two, we note that when the government is producing alongside the private individuals, the private firms, the private firms struggle as much as they can to compete with the government facilities to produce quite better quality products and services. And therefore, that means that from that kind of competition that exists between the two, there is improved or high quality goods and services produced. Goods and services produced. On the other hand, we also have to note very well that since the government aims at producing for use, which production is always not catered for by the private entrepreneurs. By the private entrepreneurs, it means that there is also high production. There is also high production of public utilities. High production of public utilities. This is as a result of the government being in place alongside the private entrepreneurs. But again, on the other hand, as we are looking at the advantages of a mixed economy, we also note that since there is the existence of government alongside the local producers, the local individual producers, we also note that a variety of output is produced. And what does this one mean? What does it mean? It means that consumer choice. Thus, consumer choice is adhered. That consumer choice is minded about. Because the individuals will be producing and the government will also be producing. So there will be a variety from which the public, we, the individual consumers, will have to choose. We shall not be limited, as the case is with the command economy alone. So that one becomes a very significant advantage of having both the private enterprise and the command economy existing concurrently in a given economy. On the other hand, we also have to note that there is no wastage of resources due to high level of government interference. Resources due to high level of government intervention. The government is all the time monitoring the private producers, however much it is dealing in its own productions, but the eyes of the government are also keen on the private producers. Therefore, that one meaning that wastage of resources will not be always in such an economy. Only what is demanded will have to be produced, given the presence of the laissez-faire economy. Yes. Lastly, monopoly tendencies. Monopoly powers will be restricted. Monopoly powers will be restricted in the sense that due to the existence of the free enterprise economy, where we have a free interplay, free entry and exit, and the government is also alongside that very production, it means that we cannot have one producer. Even when others are outcompeted, but at least the government will remain there, alongside with the other competitor in the private sector or in the other individual who is engaging in that kind of production. Therefore, monopoly tendencies will not exist. Monopoly tendencies will not exist. Therefore, having looked at these few advantages, please, this marks the end of our economic systems, their futures, their definitions, their futures, their advantages and their disadvantages. Therefore, in a couple of time, please, let's meet for another subtopic under introduction to economics. Thank you.